Have you ever felt that you've been run over by a barrel, or they have you over the barrel? Something similar to one of these? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today on this edition of Ride Skilled, Ride Smart, Ride Safe. We're going to look at riding in construction zones. Construction zones, a very, very busy place, and one that requires everybody to be paying attention, including bikers. The importance of slowing down and obeying all the road signs that are there is extremely important. You got to understand, there are workmen there. Their lives are depending on you as much as you are depending on them. No matter how much we try to obey those laws, sometimes accidents occur, and motorcyclists are at a higher risk than most everybody else, because basically those that are driving cars are caged in, and you as a motorcyclist are not. Hidden hazards and small discrepancies in road surface can throw a rider off balance, and it can easily cause a loss of control if you're not careful and if you're not prepared. As roads are repaired, or they're rebuilt, or in many cases they're redesigned, so they've changed, driving lanes can be shifted and they can be narrowed. Travel lanes can become uneven, have gaps, have ledges. Anything can happen to them. Often you will find that you must drive on unfinished surfaces, which can be rough, slippery, very slick, absolutely. Well, most cars can manage these conditions safely at a reduced speed, keeping in mind they have at least 4 wheels. These changes are much more difficult for the motorcyclist, and they can be extremely dangerous to you, because with only 2 wheels, they're smaller than the car and the truck wheels. Even a small gap can cause a motorcycle to have a really bad day. According to collected data, and through this thing called experience, the following road surfaces found in construction zones can be extremely dangerous for motorcycles, especially if you don't handle it properly. So we're going to start with our first thing. Grooves from paved milling. You know, that's that grinding up of the asphalt layer in the top because they want to put another layer on down below, so it has groove marks sticking up through it. These long grooves can cause instability for motorcycles, and they can contribute to a loss of control. How are you going to handle it? How are you going to handle it as a motorcyclist when you come to these? Don't hold on hard. Just let the thing go back and forth. Let it run back and forth through your fingers and through your hands as much as possible. Don't grip it hard, or you're going to overcompensate. The second thing are unpaved or gravel surfaces. These surfaces can be uneven, and they offer really poor traction. You have to have good traction in order for your bike to manage. And with these uneven surfaces and gravel on gravel roads, chances are in a lot of cases that gravel's just been pushed along. It's not even packed down yet. Okay? And it can cause that loss of control, that thing we really don't want to have. Loose gravel and debris on pavement. Now, where does this stuff come from? These materials can act as ball bearings under the tires of a motorcyclist, and again reduce traction and friction on the road surface. So where did a lot of this come from? Well, there's a number of different places it comes from, and you have to be aware of that and watch for it. As trucks enter and exit the highway from work areas, a lot of times they get mud, they get rocks and so on stuck in their tires. The next thing, as they run on the road, that becomes left on the road. And you as a motorcyclist, especially if you're riding behind a dump truck or a haul truck that has dual wheels, stay back from it, because you never know whether a rock has been caught between the dual tires in the back and all of a sudden gets flinged out at you. And you don't have a lot between you and that coming rock. So watch out for that as trucks are entering and exiting. Other things are, when those trucks are on the road, sometimes they're overloaded. And as they're overloaded, gravel, dirt, whatever they're carrying can spill out on the highway. And over a period of time, you can see that. Rumble strips. Now, rumble strips are not a motorcyclist's best friend, and they come in different styles. One of the styles is going along the side of the road. Why is it there? Well, if the truck, car, whatever goes over there, and it's a way of waking them up to say, hey, stay on the highway. We all know about the rumble strip down the middle of the road, because if you as a biker have tried to pass another vehicle over those rumble strips, you know that that can shake you up a bit as you go through, and then shake you up as you come back. But another rumble strip that can upset us is the one that is across the road, giving you an idea, I need you to slow down before you get here. And in a lot of cases, you don't even see them before you hit them. And it can cause some damage, it can cause you to be scared, but it also can cause you to lose control. And the worst type of rumble strip are the types that are actually raised up on the road, and those particular rumble strips are basically, let's say, held down by rebar, and hitting those is like hitting a great big bump or a muffler in the middle of the road. All of a sudden, they're there, you've hit them. So watch out for rumble strips. Basically with rumble strips, again, just keep your hands loose on the wheel, don't try to overcompensate, and you'll be fine. How about in a lot of places you go, there's liquids on the road. Now when I'm talking liquids, I'm talking basically water from rain, or what they do in some places is they bring in water trucks, and what the water truck does is try to keep the dust down. So it just throws water out onto the road, and that's great. It keeps the dust down. And if you're driving a four-wheel vehicle, that's not so bad. You're going to get it dirty, but it's not so bad. You still have mostly your friction and your traction, but not for a motorcycle. Not having two wheels. It becomes very slick. It becomes very dangerous, and it's one of the hardest things to drive in, especially if there's been a lot of material on the road and that water has just turned it to muck. In a lot of cases, what you have to do is look at that and say, do I really want to ride through that? If you have to ride through that, you're going to have to reduce your speed and reduce it quite a bit. Use your brake light to signal anybody behind you that you are reducing speed. And then as you go through, keep your eyes up, look where you want to go. It's going to weave back and forth a bit on you, but keep going. And if your speed is good, stay off the brakes as much as you possibly can. If you have to brake, it's going to be very gentle. So you really have to be careful going through those areas. The other thing about liquids on the road is sometimes they will hide something that's underneath. And when you come to a puddle or a pool of water, do you know how deep that is? You really don't. It could be hiding a pothole. It could be hiding something else underneath of it. Try to avoid them as much as possible, but if you have to ride through them, again, get your speed down and try the best you can just to maintain your balance, maintain going through. Don't grab the brakes, do it very gently. Another thing that in construction areas you find is they have to work around markings that are already on the highway. So what do? They use blackout tape to cover over some of the paint surfaces that are there. Now the thing about blackout tape is, depending on the tape, some of it has a nice friction style backing, which means that if you run over it, it's not so bad. But a lot of the backing tape starts to lose that over a period of time, and then it becomes very slippery, especially when it gets wet. So what you have to do as a motorcyclist is to try to avoid that blackout tape. Again, if you ride on it, don't come on the brakes. Try to get off as much as possible. Let the bike slow down. If you have to brake, try to do it in a straight line. Do not do it by turning your handlebars, especially in blackout tape. Some of the tape, by the way, may also be other colors like orange, or maybe white or whatever. But blackout tape is the one they use a lot to get rid of the lines that are already there. As well, large pavement markings. And in some cases in a construction zone, to show you the direction they want you to go, they put huge pavement markings on the road. Now, it could either be painted, but a lot of times it's not. Again, it's taped down because they only want to use it temporarily. And anything that's taped like that can become slippery, and over a period of time of vehicles going over it, road dirt, oils of the vehicles and so on, it becomes very, very slippery. Do your best to bypass those, to ride either side of it. Again, if you have to ride over them, try to ride in a straight line. They can become slippery, and another spot that they become slippery is when it's really, really cold. If it gets down below 4 to 5 degrees Celsius, they become extremely slippery. So try not to ride on them as much as you possibly can. Steel plates. How many times have you gone along somewhere on the road and they use steel plates to cover over a hole that they have there? I don't think I have to tell you that steel is extremely slippery when it comes to riding over with a bike. Not only that, most of that steel is about 2.5 centimeters or an inch thick, which also gives you another bump when you hit it. So try to slow down before you get it. Go across it straight. Try not to brake. Manhole covers. That's one of those things that I start to get really upset with. Simply because road engineers really don't understand where motorcycles ride, first of all, because they put manhole covers where you ride. Secondly, a lot of times manhole covers, they're made of steel. Again, slippery. Ottawa, where I'm at, you'll find that over a period of time, frost action causes the road to go up and down, but sometimes the manhole cover stays where it's at. So you have your road surface going up and down, but it cracks around it. So what ends up happening is it becomes uneven, which now has created an even bigger problem. And in some cases, when they are building a highway up, they will raise the manhole covers up, and that becomes even a bigger problem simply because you're riding along and all of a sudden you hit a manhole cover that is exposed by about 2-3 inches or 5 to 8 centimeters. That is a real hard thing on you and the bike, and it makes it very easy to lose control. Again, be on the lookout for these. Don't hit the brakes. Do it before the manhole cover, but off the brakes as you go over it. That gives you a better traction, a better line going through. And I think that when we look at some lanes, they're uneven. And uneven lanes basically is where they put asphalt on one side, but on the other side they don't have it. So you're asked to go up and down these lanes, and you may have anywhere between 6 and 8 centimeters or 2 to 4 inches of new asphalt that you got to try and bring your bike up and over. Again, it's a way of losing control, but how are you going to fix that? Slower speed, that's the number one thing. Slower speed, looking up, ease yourself down, and then when you come back up, come back on as much of a right angle as you possibly can. Probably a 45 degree to a right angle is going to be your best way. Don't try to ease up on it, because if you do, at this particular point, you could lose control or it will keep you out there. All right? Again, slow speed is the biggest thing. Work your way up and on and then go. Keep in mind, asphalt, new asphalt is very slippery, and especially when it's wet. Okay? Because of all the oils that are there. And we got to keep that in mind as we do all this driving. Travel lane alignment shifts. Oh yes, everybody loves that. You're driving along and you know the road, it goes this way. All of a sudden, it veers off. It's never done that before. But they make it go that way to work on an area, especially bridges. So now you've got to make your way around. Other drivers may not be used to that as well. So the lanes will shift back and forth for road rebuilding. And you got to cross edges. You may have asphalt that was there and they put new asphalt in. Now you've got an edge. You've got a lip. You have to be careful riding over top of that. Again, it can throw you off. Don't panic. Just take it nice and easy. Because if you panic, you know what's going to happen. Okay. And I guess the last thing we want to look at is distracted driving. That is one of a motorcyclist's biggest banes. Doesn't matter whether there's a construction zone or there's not a construction zone. Many accidents occur in construction zones each year because of driver inattention, checking their GPS, checking their phone, eating, and not watching what's going on ahead of them before they have to make any decisions. A lot of riders, a lot of drivers are still looking only about 6 seconds down the road instead of looking your 12 to 14 seconds down the road. And as a result of that, you're going to get braking, you're going to get hard braking because something's occurred, you're going to get tailgaters, and you're going to get rear ending simply because they're not paying attention. You as a motorcyclist have to watch out for that. And then the big thing to do here is if you have traffic in front of you and they're slowing down, try to maintain about 4 seconds of distance between you and the vehicle ahead of you. Because if you look in your rearview mirror and you see that vehicle behind you is not slowing down, you have more room to work with, to give them room and time to get stopped. Distracted driving, in a construction zone, you have to be on the watch for this all the time. Patience, expertise, relying on your driving skills, and just calmly going through at the right speed makes all the difference in the world.